Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. I wanted to do something wintry, what with Christmas coming up, and I had actually asked my Instagram followers a number of months ago if they'd like to see an ice nymph or a jungle nymph, and there was an overwhelming vote for the ice, so here we are. I decided to use Abbey as a base and I had already prepared the canvas ahead of the video. We all know the process and it hopefully stops me going onto YouTube Kids. I decided to do something a little bit different this time. I picked out a colour palette beforehand instead of just choosing colours as I went along. I thought it might give me a bit of direction and maybe some more structure. As I chose Abbey for a base canvas, I thought pinks and purples would be a nice contrast to her tone of blue. I sprayed the head with the highly toxic and potentially carcinogenic chemical spray, Mr. Super Clear, and set to work. I've been watching Moonlight Jewel's live streams on Twitch whilst working on my dolls, and it's so relaxing and inspiring to watch somebody else work on dolls so you work on yours. There's a great atmosphere and the chat is super nice and helpful. There's plenty of room to ask Elisa questions, as well as, to ask for hints and tips with doll customizing, so her streaming was a large help with this doll. Please go and watch her streams if you haven't already. They're so relaxing and she's currently trying to get a partnership with Twitch. Plus, her reaction is adorable when she gets a sub or a donation. She's genuinely grateful. I took some inspiration from Mint dolls on Instagram with the bold eyelashes. I have tried to do eyelashes in this style before, but I don't think they came out too clean, to be perfectly honest. But I think I nailed this to the best of my ability this time. I did the whole face in about 6 layers, and as a final coat, I watered down some metallic silver paint to give the doll highlights. I saw this on an Instagram story but can't remember the artist who shared it, sorry. It's a great alternative to pearlescent powders because they can be quite expensive to buy. And as usual with my Nymph dolls, I needed to cover up those god-awful printed on knickers, so it was time to whack out the Apoxie Sculpt and get to work. I wanted to give off the effect of gemstones, and I had used both silicone tools and the non-standard part of a nail file to shape the bits of epoxy. I know the shapes aren't perfect, but I tried my best. Epoxy is still a bit difficult for me to work with. I'm still not used to sculpting on such a small scale. I was unsure of what to do with the chest this time, as usually I would sculpt the same thing on the lower half as I do on the chest, but for some reason I thought this may not have worked. So I sculpted on some basic shapes anyway and decided to do something about it later. But I couldn't think of anything at all. My fiance had suggested at this point that I give her some snowflake nipples instead. I hadn't actually painted on some kind of nipple on doll at this stage, so I thought, nah, fuck it, why not? I popped off the epoxy using my X-Acto knife and first extended the paint on the neck before painting on the nipples. I painted them on in silver and later went over them with pink. I gave the body 2 coats of some highly toxic Mr. Super Clear and set on adding some shading to the gemstones on the lower half. I used a dark grey pastel and my kneaded rubber to keep it tidy. I also used some lighter coloured pastels to give the gemstones some variation in colour. It's not super obvious on camera, but in person you can see the difference in colour tone, I promise. I also watered down some white acrylic paint and painted it on the top of the gemstone just to make it look as though it was kind of reflecting. I don't really know if it worked. I decided not to film the whole weft making process because it's not terribly satisfying or interesting to watch, I feel, and you've probably all seen it 100,000 times before, but I just wanted to show you this. I saw Pop and Atelier unravel the wool before brushing it out, and I've never actually done it myself because it seems too time consuming, so I tried it after being advised that it actually produces less waste. So you tell me, which side do you think was the unravelled wool, left or right? Leave a comment and guess! I used baby wool for the first time ever, and I think this has made the softest wefts to date. It's only acrylic, but it's still really soft.
Try to educate the heart.
To flatten out folded over wefts, I heated up my X-Acto knife with some hair straighteners because it was honestly too cold to go downstairs and get a knife, lol, and I used my cotton glove to press it down. I used the X-Acto knife holder, stick, what the hell do you call it? The handle to curl the hair. I wanted it to have this flicky hairstyle, so I went over it a few times, heating up the handle with some hair straighteners. Now, one thing I will say is that this was surprisingly dangerous. Even though I was only heating up maybe 1.5 centimeters to 2 centimeters of the handle, every few minutes I had to go to the bathroom to run it under cold water because it was getting far too hot to hold even through the gloves. So bear that in mind if you want to use this method, because metal plus heat equals bad. I used this piece of thin aluminium wire to make a sort of accessory for her hair, but to be honest, I dropped it and sort of forgot about it, please don't ask me how, and I ended up making this sort of half tiara looking thing that I must have subconsciously preferred because I didn't bother looking for the first accessory I made. I also wanted to add some holographic glitter to her hair because I thought, why not? So I painted a thin layer of Elmer's glue and yeeted some glitter on it, kinda like the festival look you see in the summertime. It was a little bit difficult to attach the half tiara because I couldn't bend it after super gluing all the components together to the wire, so I tried my best to get a good angle and to super glue it straight to the hair and forehead. And this was a little bit stressful to be honest because I had to get it on the first go, and luckily I did. I also forgot to film this part, but I added some glitter to the neck area too. Here it was time to add the tiny crystals to certain features and details. I thought the snowflake nipples would look great if they had a crystal on them. So here we are. It's certainly one way to avoid ending up on YouTube Kids, I suppose. I added some crystals to the tiara and covered up a little bit of the super glue on her forehead and some dripped down a teeny tiny bit. And it was at this point I noticed some very minuscule cracks on the lower lash line of both eyes. And I think this is from when I reattached the head, and I honestly wasn't prepared to do any major reworking to the face, so I instead patched them up by using 2 layers of watercolour pencil in a liquid form, and then I sealed it back in with just 1 layer of Elmer's glue. I didn't water this down, I just applied a very thin amount. I wanted to attach more of these snowball-like things to her hair as I thought it looked a little bit quiet compared to the rest of the body. I attached them with some super glue and I also wanted more glitter. So I sprayed on some of this Barry M glitter setting spray that you'd usually use for the makeup, and then I dusted on some more holographic silver glitter. Off camera I added some final touches and this doll was declared done. For a name, I decided to go with the Welsh word for snow, which is Eira. I thought it was quite a pretty name, and I originally wanted to call her ice in Welsh, which is rhew, but it sounds far too similar to rhew, which means sex, and I thought with 2 completely different meanings, I didn't want to cause any confusion. As always, thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, please don't forget to leave a like, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. This will be my last video for this year, so if you want to follow any more updates of doll progress or anything I do off camera, then please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye!